I'm concerned for our liberties. I'm concerned for all the young people out there that are living now and are being taught to think this is normal. This is not normal. This is anything but normal, right? So we need to very much, we need to step away from thinking that this is normal. We need to step away from thinking that we can't live our lives as we wish. By the same token, we're going to be sensible about it. But what we're seeing here is the end of the civilization that we had before this happened. Okay, this is the end. The unemployment. We haven't even seen the shockwaves traveling through society yet. We haven't seen anything yet. Okay, nothing, not a thing.
They're avoiding that conversation.
Sorry?
They're avoiding that conversation.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, we are witnessing the end of what we had. It'll be very different. Unemployment in the tens of millions. All right, hundreds of millions, I think, globally. The death rate and the infection rate, if it's a thing, again, I'm not going to argue the point here, but people are dying and people are sick. That's a thing, right? How they got sick and why they're dying is a different question altogether, but they are sick and they're dying. Now, the official numbers are what they are, but now there were some studies, and I love it. I think I said it last week. I love it when the mainstream media catches up with the fringe on news. And they're now saying it could be 10 times higher, the infection rates, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's higher than that. But if it's 10 times higher, then we're looking at 30 million, infected, here and there, certainly in the States, 30 odd million. Death rate could be in the millions as well by now, and I think it is in the millions because people don't just die of this thing, but people die because they can't get the care they need, and other factors. There are other complicating factors here as well. And what we haven't seen yet is the impact of the unemployment, the lack of money, the lack of food, the lack of resources, the lack of social assistance for people that can't help themselves. There is a vast array of things that can go wrong in so many different ways. And again, here in Australia, I have to say we are very lucky because we're a fairly small country from a population point of view. We've got 26 million people, right? And we are fairly spread out. I mean, there are population centers, of course, but we don't have the issues that China or India have, or even the United States or Brazil. We have got hundreds of millions or even a billion people that you have to contend with. We don't have any, because when those infrastructures fail in those countries, that's it. It'll be a long time rebuilding it. Our infrastructures here in Australia are a bit more resilient. Of course, we have seen, there's the stupidity of people buying toilet paper, et cetera, et cetera. But
back again.
Yeah, back again. I know, it's just nuts. I don't know why. It's just people have taken leave of their senses. But look, that's just my little tirade while you weren't here, Dave. Tell us, how are you, my friend?
Oh, late.
No, it happens, my friend.
Apologies to everyone. I had to drive out of the city and come home 60 k's, and the traffic wasn't favourable. I thought I might have been able to make up some time, and I couldn't, and so apologies once again. So, Mackie, I saw that the figures for the coronavirus are obviously they're crazy. They're 1.2 million. It went up since last show. And
yeah, that's correct.
There's no.
We're now at least a million a week. Yep.
Yeah, more. So when it went up, it clocked over more, and I said, "Wow, okay." And I saw that the state we live in, New South Wales, went up 120 in a single day, and it was never in the media. They didn't talk about it at all. It could be just overseas visitors. No one really mentioned it, so we don't know the origin of it.
It is. Yeah, sorry, it is returning tourists. Only Victoria at this point has significant community transmission.
Yeah, and but look, we'll see. And look, that was to be expected. We talked about that, a month ago, that community spread isn't visible until you open up the community again. Because while it might be contained in a single house and they're going, I may have symptomatic, I don't really know, I don't think I've got the virus, you go out there and you start infecting people who aren't asymptomatic when they receive it, then that's how you find that testing and backtracking it back to them. But, it is what it is. I noticed, Mackie, something really interesting with the figures, and that is the CFR continues to drop, and it was at 8.1% now, I think, globally. It's, I think, 1.4 or something in Australia. I know he's clicking madly looking it up. it is dropping, and even in the States, while the exposure rate is going up and up and up, the case rates are, but the case fatality rates are still going down. And something really interesting also this week was the backflip in NBC and CNBC about HDC, hydroxychloroquine. They've backflipped and said, yeah, it actually helps. Yeah, they actually read the studies this time and didn't just listen to Fauci. Outside of that, there's some still worrying big numbers. You don't want to be next to someone who has it. We still have social distancing, and when that gets deleted, we're out of this. But that's not anytime soon. It's so not anytime soon that I'm not sure how we're going to get to be able to do that again.
Yeah,
I want to go to Australia's biggest motor vehicle race, right, at Bathurst. Yeah. I just hope I can. I hope I can camp there. I don't think
When is that?
It's
What's
October.
the date for that?
It's October.
No, not going to happen, mate.
Yeah, I know, right? So they're selling tickets now to trackside, but you won't be camping. You won't be camping. So, the $300 for the campsite gets rolled over to next year, apparently, if it's off. So who knows? It's a little disappointing. Mickey, the thing that I'm struggling to see regain itself again is all the let's call it cottage industry. So all of the not leechy companies, but the ones who rely on foot traffic. All of those convenience things that we've enjoyed so much in the large cities, coffee and being able to sit down and have a breakfast or order something from a window somewhere and sit at your desk at work and eat it and enjoy it. That cafe experience and all of that styled convenience shopping, I can't see that working because it was financial because of the throughput.
But you said convenience, right? So convenience or luxury. Mm-hmm. So the first thing to go is luxury. The next thing to go is what makes your life easy, convenience. The only thing that remains in any appreciable amount at all is essential. Whatever is essential, that will remain, right? Once the essential things go well, then that's a horrible thing. But essential convenience, in the word itself, it says it's convenient. It's not essential. It's not something you have to have. It's just convenient to have it. Not only that, the way we work has changed. So all these coffee shops that you just mentioned, right, or even the little grocery stores in the city near your office, they're not going to make the same kind of business because not everybody is going to go back to the office, and certainly not all at once either. The ones that are coming back.
It's just going to be a different world. And you're right, Mickey. When I came in, I heard you talking about this world that we emerge into is going to be different. Yes, absolutely. And how long would it be is the question until we're able to return to normality? And what does that mean? And will it require a vaccine and a transit card, saying that you're immune to it now, that you can't be a carrier, you're not a carrier, and but then, the next thing, Mickey, the G4 version of H1N1, the swine flu, is now popping its head up. But that's actually a good thing because the researchers in China, they're looking for this stuff now. They flagged it. Yeah. So it hasn't actually emerged into the human community. What they found, the worrying thing is they found antibodies in the handlers of the pigs, which means it has jumped the species, only not to infectious rates quite yet. But because we're flagging it, I reckon that's not going to hit us. What's going to hit us is going to come out of left field somewhere. So because we're looking over here now, right? It's like a magician, redirection. Look over here, and then bang, stage left. Somebody's going to knock you out, right? Yeah. Because it's always where you don't expect it, and that's what I think is going to happen here. We had a TB, tuberculosis outbreak here in Australia. The very hospital that I'm going to tomorrow.
Yeah, so Dave, you know what you have to do, right? Bubble boy. You got to be bubble boy.
I'll roll in one of those, the balls.
I'm only half joking, buddy.
I'm only half joking. Yeah, I know. I'll have a mask on the whole time.
Yeah, because the one thing so COVID-19, if it's a thing, it's got a fatality rate which is fairly low. There are horrendous things that when you're recovering, it's actually pretty bad, and there's always going to be an impact on you. I'm told, but tuberculosis, especially the multi-drug resistant strains, they're actually a death sentence.
That's right.
Okay, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah,
so
we
that's
nothing,
the one
right?
you should be worried.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
we got nothing.
that's right.
No. Lung transplants would do it, I guess.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. But even then,
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can.
The deflating
how much can
lung,
you actually cut out?
The deflating lung, just before you take your first gasp, reinfects you. That's hilarious. Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be, right, or what it's going to mean. So I think you just have to keep your ears and eyes open. But guess what, Mecky? You'll never guess. Yeah. Never.
Tell me. I can't guess. Blue, 42.
42. You're not going to like the answer.
Okay.
No, remember that? You're not going to like it. What's the answer to life?
You're not going to like it. Yeah, I know.
You're not going to like it.
So we're going to give it to me. 42. What does that mean?
Well, you have to work out what the question means. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay, so what does the question mean in this case? We have a guest today.
Beautiful.
It has been some time, and our good friend, a friend of the show, Paul, connected us all together, and we went on an expedition when we met Evan and Stephen too, for that matter, and from that point forward, I've so gotten a different perspective on the origins of humanity. That is
likewise.
Yeah. It's far beyond what the textbooks, the reprinted textbooks from the 50s that we learned all of our history from, where textbooks are written by the winners and they couldn't care less in this lockstep research world that we live in, where tenure and grants basically direct the direction of what history is. What does it mean to us? And that person that we have on today is Evan Strong. And yay! Hoping that he
welcome to the show,
Evan.
Hello. How you all going? Good, yeah?
Yeah, excellent. Really well. How about yourself? Are you surviving in all of this?
Yeah, we're in a different situation at the moment. Well, yeah, we are, because we live up in a rainforest behind Byron and Lennox, and to be honest, we're fine, actually, considered anywhere. So, but yeah, we know what's going on, but no, all it means is we're being restricted. We can't put on live presentations, and because of that, that's why we resorted to these online conferences. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done this, but that's about the only accommodation we've had to make to this, but well, we'll see what the future brings. But the funny part is that what the research we're doing at the moment is all based around a prophecy, which for the last 3 years we've been telling people about, which included the fact that this was going to take place. And the elders, I heard at one stage, one of you guys were talking about the end.
Yes.
It's sort of funny because what's happening on December the 21st at Uluru at 9 p.m. is very much what I would think was the beginning. So sort of thing, when you get the end of something, there's got to be a part where there's something completely different that marks out the beginning.
That's it.
And it would seem, from what the elders are telling us, that might be where all of this chaos we're going through, when it does come to a close. So I sort of look at all this, to be honest, knowing what the elders have told us and seeing some dramatic proof that maybe we'll have a chance to share with you guys. We're of the opinion that you could look at it like this. If the world is going to change as dramatically as people hope, then the end, it's not going to be like T.S. Eliot. It's not going to be like a whimper, man. It's going to be a bang. So I feel like all this culmination of fear and chaos and mistrust and unemployment and economic doom and the second wave and the third wave and a new mutation, which was announced yesterday in America.
Yep.
That's all a part of this. And we're not boasting about this, but from the time we heard this prophecy 3 years ago, we were given some sort of rough bones which have been added to, and that was one of the first things we were told was going to happen, that the year before would be the most chaotic and worse. So you've got to, I know there's nothing good about this because of all the civil liberties and all the things that have happened, but there is a backdrop, and it sort of gives you hope when people start to despair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just to let our readers, just to let our listeners know, readers eventually, I guess. But esteemed listeners, the Strongs, specifically father and son, are at the forefront of what you could call the out of Australia theory. Forgotten Origin is their website, forgottenorigin1word.com, if you want to take a look. Stephen Evan Strong. And this is challenging the out of Africa theory, just as a quick background, because we can trace, as a cultural entity, as a cultural artifact, we can trace the Australian Aboriginal people and culture much further back than any other in the world. Much further back than we can trace the African cultures. Okay,
it's continually inhabited.
Correct. And you might have heard recently a 47,000-year-old cave was destroyed by a huge mining concern without much of a fanfare, and more sites are threatened.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of years. We're going back 80, 100, 120,000 years, even further back in time, of documented habitation of our Australian continent. Sorry, that was just a bit of a background. And I've shared the webpage in the chat as well, guys.
Yeah, fantastic. And Stephen and Evan, we met up with you for our first time with you when we went to Space Rock.
Yeah.
Yango, right?
Yeah,
And,
that's the one.
And Stephen, the last time I ran into you was in Ballina at the service station. Crazy, like our worlds cross.
The time before, isn't it? It's got from the sublime to the utterly ridiculous. Yeah, that's a lovely, good narrative. How did that finish up? Right.
We were. You were in the deck of I was driving up in the Jeep. It took like 45 minutes to drive up. I think it was quite a bumpy ride. Yeah, that was cool.
Okay, so
Wasn't it?
what started you guys and in finding the direction you're in now as a compass? What was the thing that changed your direction? Because were you always were you born into a family of researchers, or were you just going about your daily lives, stumbled upon some things, and suddenly your life turned left all of a sudden?
No, when I was born, none of us are born into. No, this was because of the fact that I was a teacher. I had nothing to do with this stuff at all. And I got involved in teaching the Aboriginal studies in New South Wales. I worked with Linda Burney in starting the Ab Studies course for years 11 and 12. I did the first course on it. I got a year's accreditation from New South Wales Department of Education. Principal, whole business. I was doing all that all the way through. Ran all the courses in Moree. Was head of two different groups that were running $250,000, everything. My problem was I had a fight with the Department of Education and left. See, when we were writing the course, I wrote two parts of it for the teaching course for the actual teachers. I wrote traditional law in 1770 to 1962 when 66 when the referendum came through. And what I wrote, I found out as I started to live with the people in Moree, and as the kids sort of got on well with me, they shared me their culture, and then I started to find out that everything I'd written was a load of crap. Which is because that's what everyone was, because no one had no idea what the real culture was here. So I went back to the rewrite and tried to point out to the guy that was running it that no, the reason why no one's doing the course is you're teaching it badly and it's all wrong, and had an argument with them and resigned the next day. So I had to write a book, which we did with University Press of America. Wrote 3 with them to try and basically show the proof behind the fact that humanity began in Australia. And then from that, the elders asked we actually only go into country when elders ring us, or we get invited onto the country by an elder. And for the last 10 years, we've probably been invited onto close to 100 sites, I'd say.
Definitely, including the one near to the one you just mentioned that got destroyed.
Yeah, that was there. In fact, the elders from there were the ones who rung me. And if you want a little background to that site, I can, because I was there 5 years before fighting for the site 2 valleys away. They were going to blow up, and it was 42,000 years old. So when that happened, there's one person in Australia wasn't surprised. Do you know there's more background to this? Now, what happened, and by the way, it was a different company. It wasn't Rio Tinto. This was Atlas. Eddie McPhee rang me up, right? And he's the elder, bloodline right there from way back, and said, would you come across? Because we knew we did that. We flew there. I flew there on our own expense to go across there, took us into a cave, taken in by the company, because Eddie couldn't get in without the permission of the company. We escorted us on there with him. We had to do that to get inside to a cave where they tried to dig 4 pits. 3 were abandoned because of the fact that every time they made movement, above fell down. We all had hard hats while we were standing inside there. The whole place was shaken to death. And then the 4th one, they got down to 42,000 years. That's only 4,000 years less than the one they blew up. Don't worry, they're trying to blow that one up before. So this is part of the story. And I can tell you why they did this at the finish. Then what happens is, old mate's standing there, the company direct, second in line. And they said, look, I've been doing some research here. My understanding is you can explode to within 50 metres of the cave site, can you? So, oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, that's on the cards. We're doing that. No worries, eh? Oh, yeah. Got that lined up. We've got the charges in the back there. But just when you get out of the way, we'll be on to that one. And I said, but right now, looking there's a bit about to fall off right now, and we're in hard hats, and you made me sign a frigging waiver. And the waiver was to say that when I stood underneath the cave, if the cave roof fell on top of me and I died, I can't sue them, right?
Or who
I had to sign this waiver, and they're telling me that they can blow, say, 5 megaton of stuff within 50 metres of the cave site, right? And it'll be cool, right? No worries. Sure. And I said to him, I said, mate, I'm looking him in the eye. I said, I've just made that observation to him. He said, no. Legally, we're allowed to explode it within 50 metres. I tried it a second way around. I got the same response, and I realised I was talking to a robot, and his soul was already bought. Now, what happens is we only saved that site because it was low-grade iron ore, and soon after the market fell away. So they couldn't really get enough money from it. So they sold it to a magnate called Gina Reinhardt. She owns it now. Right. Now, here's the trick. That site, Eddie's Land owns both that site and the other site. 2 more things you need to know about it. Number 1, in Eddie's Land, there are 829 leases on his land. Now, they're mining leases. Do you know who the mining leases are agreed to between? They're agreed to between the Minister for Mining and the mining company. Now, within it, there's a clause called exclusive rights. Who are the determinators of exclusive rights? The Minister for Mining and the mining company. Who have no say on what exclusive rights are? The original people. Therefore, they can blow that up. Now, that's legal. That's the law. Now, that's what people don't fully understand. Now, Eddie asked us to write an article about that, which we did, and he put his statements in it about how he felt. But, gentlemen, the most important part of this story is this, that 5 years before when I stood in that cave, and Eddie told me that cave was the main sister in their 7 Sisters dreaming story, and if they blew that up, it was their second most important church.
Oh.
No, it gets worse. By the way, they can still do that. Then he turned around and he pointed to another site, which was Jugan Gorge, right? And with that one, this is what he said. But over there, pointing at Jugan Gorge, he said, that's the main one, because that's the 7 Sisters dreaming story. That's where that's kept. That's the one they blew up.
Oh, no.
So that part doesn't get in the media, does it?
No.
Now, how would I know that? Because I'm working on behalf of the elders of that site. And I'm also working on behalf of the elders of a site in Canberra where they're trying to turn it into a 300 person gated gated community. And they're trying to turn that instead. That's a sacred site, and it goes everywhere. And of course, it goes to carry on too. And hopefully, we'll get to talk about that because that's even worse than what's happening at Juban Gorge.
So,
but
it's
in Australia, exclusive rights means that they get the final say on this. So, if they want to blow it up,
They'll blow it up.
Yeah. And who's going to go to court about this, Evan? What happened there? No one.
No. But don't worry, they're going to have an internal inquiry.
That's what they are.
With their own committee.
Yeah, they are too. Yeah, forgot about that.
Because that'll solve everything, won't it? No.
Internal
inquiry coming up. And originally they said the findings would be kept, the word was secret.
That's
right.
Yeah.
But that's what it should be. But eventually, come on, guys, give them credit. It changed because they since have announced, due to a few complaints, that they are now prepared to release selected pieces of the finding, and they will drip feed them to selected pieces of the media, and they'll let that coming out sometime around October-ish, maybe.
Oh, right. So it's all heavily redacted and only show the fluff.
Well, they have expressed their sincere regret to the selected original people in the PKKP.
Only to them.
Only to them. Yes, to them for causing them distress.
Yes,
but not for blowing the place up. They've never said that legally because that would actually be a mistake legally to say that they felt sorry for doing. No, but
or to any other group.
Yes,
that's been
no, just to them.
Yep.
Every time they've been asked, kept saying exactly the same words. It's funny is that you think that person must have a switch on. He says the same thing. Anyway,
it seems very inconvenient that the places they want to mine happen to have sacred sites on them. Fat cat.
I think we need to look at it. It's probably different. We've talked about this before, and I would really like your opinion on this. We've mentioned this when we talked about the Black Lives Matter initiative and all these things, and how Aboriginals are much more likely to get imprisoned and, in fact, be killed in incarceration. I believe, and I think Dave is with me on this, there's a deliberate activity, albeit unofficial policy of extermination, not just physical extermination, but cultural extermination against the Aboriginal people. Would you say that's about right?
Oh, look, this links up with what we're trying to do in this online conference. I can't believe what you've said. I was going to try and say that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it.
Oh, man. No, thank you so much, because honestly, originally, the online conference was solely about a prophecy about December the 21st, but it's turned out it's about two things. And the second thing is exactly what you just said, because look, I mentioned Canberra. Then I was about to mention the fact that I believe one of the two most important archaeological sites in the world that rewrites world history completely is at Carryong, and they're doing the same thing to that they've done to the other sites. And what we're doing now is our presentation has changed markedly, because we wrote a letter on behalf of the elders there, because I asked to write something up, where we're putting to the developers a compromise to save the place, because it will be destroyed with the development they're talking about, and I'll get to that in a sec.
So let's just, for the listeners, where the hieroglyphs are. The glyphs that's okay. It's okay, man. Our listeners, because
I assumed everyone knew there was 300 hieroglyphs in Gosford somewhere. I thought it was world known. Around the world, they've been hiding for so long. I thought everyone we're talking to would have just assumed they knew all about that.
That's okay. So I live in Gosford. I live around Gosford. So Mackie and I took a trip up there and had a look, and it's an amazing site, and the tale that it tells, which I'd like you to tell, but the vantage point, the view from that whole region is sold to a developer. So what happens as a result of that? They could make a little sideline, showing that off. But it's not only the hieroglyphs, but the top of each of those of the plateau shows an amazing thing. It's got star fields drawn out. It's also, is this not also, I've heard it being called the Stonehenge of Australia, the region there, and the maps and and everything. So can you talk to that for me?
Yeah, well, the Stonehenge of Australia is up in Mullumbimby, and we're not going to talk about that tonight because we never do the other one properly. But there's two. The area you're talking about has been looked at by experts and mapped by geologists, and they call it the most intensively marked rock platform area in the world. Okay? So when you talk about the fact I'm going to put a development in, there are engravings everywhere. Now, what you've got to look at is the quality of the engravings. That's what the problem is here. So if I can share with you some of the things that are there that make this site, and the problem is we see this as a line in the sand because we've lost this other site. Every site in Australia is under threat. If this one is destroyed, which it will be, okay, if that happens, when does it stop? So we're trying to make this focal point, and we've got a way of asking people. We've worked this out, and that's why we're trying to get people to come to this conference and work out how we can get pressure on to stop this. But first up, the sites themselves, there's so many others that go with it. Now, if I can share with you, you've got the carry-on glyphs to begin with, which is a collection of 300 amazingly engraved glyphs on the sides of 3 walls, isn't it?
Yes.
They make 2 different narratives. Very simply, one is Egyptian,
that's
earliest Egyptian, Khufu and 2 sons, and we'll be very specific later if you want to talk about that. And the second part is an alien presence, and it's a narrative of them coming there, and it's all done pictorially. It is part Proto-Egyptian, which is the earliest verb of hieroglyphs. It is part Dogon. Laird Scranton did that and found about 50 of those things, which are exactly the same. Part Sumerian, part unknown, and together it makes 2.5 panels. And the major glyph that runs throughout it is the motif of alien spaceships. In fact, they're all called publicly the Ufo Glyphs. And the beginning of that glyph is about someone coming from somewhere and creating. The whole thing is part of that.
That's the army, right? In the Mount
area. Part of
Yep.
this too. And then there's a star mark, a chart directly above it.
Yes.
That was engraved in there, and it's been charted by Sydney University, and they have agreed, and we've got the map and we've got the date on it, and it comes up at 4,660 years ago, which is identical to the reign of Khufu, isn't it?
That's right. And I think it's even got July, and it's down to the day and the time.
Yeah. And at the carry-on glyphs, there is a motif there that no one can argue that reads Nefertejeb, and Nefertejeb was the son of the pharaoh. So we have that story there. We have the other story there. Now, why would they destroy this site? Well, the last part of this is our opinion. That's what we have a manual that was made from Egypt by Dr. Abu Diagazi and Ray Johnson, which we worked on to transcribe the half of that we could recognise. So we had a general idea what it's about. Then we threw in the Dogon part. And what we found is the first panel is 90% Proto-Egyptian, and the rest of we got about a 40% Egyptian motif. Now, the Egyptians learned it from here. Now, the second part is we've got the alien story, which is we can read and we'll show later if we get a chance with the, I think we're doing some slides or something, I'm not sure. Yeah, so the point is that what you'll find is as we go through this, the one thing that the public are always going to find a little bit different to accept is, can you give me some concrete proof? Would that be correct, Jim?
That's right.
It would be nice if I could give you proof where I went to one of the top laboratories in the country and went to a laboratory where there are 38 scientists that are led by a friend of mine that I play tennis with, that runs the whole business and pays $2.5 million a year a rent to Southern Cross University. And the guy that runs the whole business, his name is Graham Lancaster, and he begged me to analyse an object that came from the carry-on glyphs, was found between the walls, and was given to me by Auntie Minnie Mace, who is a highly respected original elder, isn't she?
Yep.
One of the top elders in the country, to protect us. Now, from the time that was picked up, and she also picked up a piece of bone. Now, it turns out if I've got a little bit of time with you, I'd like to explain we had these, the bone has been analysed and the metal has been analysed. Now, the metal, that one is, we've got that analysed and it turns out that it doesn't exist.
Okay.
It can't be found. It's not here. It doesn't belong. And by the way, this is the top laboratory in the country. This guy lectures all around the world and spoken in major symposiums. And he told me straight out, they have a major issue with this. It's not like the composure of anything there. Well, there's a lot of problems with it. If we've got a little bit of time, how long is
we have
an hour altogether.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
So, but this, in a few minutes the music will start, but we have an hour after that. No worries.
All right. Okay. The problems are threefold. This is what the analysis comes back. Okay. So number one, we know that this is found near all this stuff. So it says there's aliens here and there's Egyptians here. Let's do the alien part first. All right, this is what the readout was: 72%, 73%. Sorry, aluminium, 3% copper, and 24% not on the periodic table, not registered on this planet. Doesn't exist.
I don't think I could even describe the metal.
Wow.
No, because you can't.
No.
And this is the problem they had for analysis. I've got to explain what happened when they did the analysis, because they all knew. From the time he looked at it, because he's a world expert when he looked at it. I had to get permission off Arnie Mini Mace because they had to cut this to do this properly, okay? It's got the cut on it. When you see a photograph of it, you'll see the cut mark on it where they did this, so it's legit. And this guy, well, if you ring him up, if they talk to him, they'll tell you that. Now we've got the readout, it's all legit, and this is what they knew. So what happened was when they tried to cut it, because they knew it was aluminium, but he knew there was something wrong about it from the start. And when I finally got permission, he said, was really happy. So they put the machine to cut through it and it bounced off. It didn't leave a mark. And old mate, that was Mark that did that. I also played tennis with, and sort of Graham looked at him like, what have you done? He said, I can't get through it, boss. So they had to get the toughest drill they had to cut it. So what's the 24%? Because it's aluminium, right? So that's a problem, because it doesn't belong to this planet. Now, what someone could say, gentlemen, is someone forged this quite recently, the cynic could say, and they put something in you can't recognise. We've been fiddling around in the last couple of years. Okay, it's possible. That's the only explanation, but it can't be, because there's a second issue with the science, not channeling, science, and it's this one.
There's
the music. Don't go away, everybody. We will be back with more fascinating stuff here, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll capture you on the other side of a very short break.
Okay.
Stay tuned. You're back with David Meckey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com, on the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5 US a month. If you're new to Shiny Side Out, welcome aboard. This is a tinfoil hat zone, so keep your arms within the vehicle, turn off your personal reality inverters, and please, no flash photography. We're glad you're on board, so thank you very much for inviting us into your lives. So follow, subscribe, or otherwise for the appropriate social media platform. We're halfway through show number 433.
330 and 400.
Awesome. And we're talking to Stephen and Evan Strong about their out of Australia theories. And it's not really theory, I have to say, because it's way past that now. And we've only had them for half an hour. We get a whole another hour now. And we were when we left for the break, we were talking about the carry-on glyphs, the destruction post before that of the archaeological sacred sites that the native Australians or the native custodians hold so dear to their person. And Mecky and I both acknowledge and so does William and Evan Strong, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Where I live, it's the Darkinjung, Mecky.
And for me, it's the Ruck people here in Pemulwuy.
And Evan and Stephen? The people where you live, do you know? You might still be muted. Nope. And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So, thank you very much, Stephen and Evan, for joining us. And let's get back into this, because you know what? The breaks come sometimes at the wrong time. But let's get back into it.
They're there, but the gain is very low.
Okay. I might add them back in and see what happens. I'm going to drop you guys and add you back in, okay? Let's see if that works. You know what? Sometimes technology does this to us.
I was cut off last time when I was talking about some stuff they didn't want to talk to me about.
That's right.
Hey.
That's much better, guys. Thank you very
There you
much.
are. Beautiful.
Okay. All right. Look, we'll pick it up again. Look, I was getting to the second part of this thing about the fact that people are very quick to deny anything unusual, and they immediately think up ridiculous rebuttals, and everyone accepts them. Okay, let's just assume for somehow or other someone's found some metal that no one knows in the world, and they put it in there for some strange reason, and then dropped it at the back of this place in the middle of the bush that no one even went to at that stage, and no one even knew existed. And they put it there for that reason. I don't know why they did it, but they did. But okay, the other part is this. It is ancient. It was done thousands and thousands of years ago. And the reason we know this is because that makeup I gave you, which was 73% aluminium and 3% copper. Let me tell you something about those alloys. We have them. We've had them for a while in different forms. It's quite a difficult thing to do because they're reactive to one another. So it's a sophisticated form of creation, and it's beyond any sort of campfire effect, but it can be done. But here's the trick. All the ones of today, the copper is 10 to 12%, always has been for a long time. You may not realise, but Napoleon III, when people came to the mansions there to eat, the middle class got silver and the hoi polloi got aluminium. It was quite a rare piece of work. But if you go back, way back, thousands and thousands of years ago, yes, they had that percentage. Of course, it was higher because there's 24 that's not there. And the amount of copper they put in them was between 2 and 4%. Ours is 3%. So therefore, what we know science tells us is that artifact we're speaking about has to be thousands and thousands of years old, couldn't have been done today, and in it, 1/4 of it is made from a substance that nobody knows what it is. And if you look at the artifact, you'll find there was a clasp that was there with a perfect piece of circle on it. It was broken halfway through, and only Minnie told us one of her children went to a doof and dropped it, and then it broke. So there was a perfect round piece that was clasped into it on one side, and the other one side is perfectly flat, and then you've got an engraving on the top, and it looks ancient and encrusted. So that has alien... Look, the thing is that the metal doesn't exist here, so it has to be there. The bone was taken to the fractured unit head scientist. I rang him up, he said he'd look at it for free, and he told me it is ancient and it is probably a femur, but he can't be sure any more than that. So he arranged a free examination at the base hospital CAT scan, and we found they looked at it, did 6 times the dose because the patient wouldn't complain, and told us that, and they analysed it and told me it has exactly the same density as the bone. It was found exactly where that actual panel, there's an extra panel some way away from the other glyphs. You don't know about this one, a separate panel that is all Proto-Egyptian. And it talks about the son of the pharaoh being buried and a back shaft, and that's where the back shaft was, and that's where the bones were. So now we know that bone is ancient and very old, very light, and it's found next to an object that obviously was used as jewelry. Now the problem is, if it is Nefertari, when we suspect it is, we've got an interesting thing there, gentlemen. because 72% of what he was wearing as jewelry, there's no bauxite in Egypt. And there's no 24% of metal that don't exist anywhere in Egypt either. So we've got a double problem there. Now, what this site does is you put that together. You have the star chart above that says 4,600 years. You've got the name Nefer engraved into, you've got the 10-meter shaft underneath that was dug out there.
I put my head down through there, yeah.
Yeah, right. You've got all that together. Now, would you call that, and then around it, can I just add to that for the people listening to this site before I beg for their engagement in this? Can I also tell you, there's one platform there that Ed and I have worked on that has at least 800 star markers. And we've marked about half of them. And of course, within that, of course, we found the Seven Sisters and Orion.
Yes.
Evans just put up a map of the... that's not the 800 one. That's the one done by Sydney Uni, which gives us the same date as Khufu. So we have his name of his son between the walls. We have the date there. Then you go around there further, and you go to the site of Klaus's walls, don't you, Evan? Which, Evan, that's not even there, Evan. You can't find that one. I'm going to catch you on that. I'm showing off.
I was doing so well.
Until
you went off 10.
That one wasn't, I've got to tell you this, that wasn't on the script. I thought, you big show-off, I'll catch him on that. Look, 3 sets of walls. They are, some of them weigh tons. They're perfect shape. You couldn't put a twig inside them. And they take a weight of probably 150 tons on top, which is a shelf. It goes on. But the most important site, there's a star marker there.
There you go, yep.
And I want to, before I ask people to sort of help, I want to explain what the most important site is because I can't show it to you. Okay?
What's that?
And I've got to be careful because I'm under very strict instructions. This was done by Arnie Bev because we had a real issue with this site, and it is within 100 metres of where this development is. Yeah. And this is why I'm concerned, and this is why I wanted to lead up to this, because this is the most important site and it's the most unprotected, and it will be trashed. Now, what happened was we stumbled on this most amazing site that I can't begin to describe, because even if I had words I couldn't do it. It was beautiful beyond anything, but I can't say more than that. And it was massive, and I've never seen anything like it, and it's the only one in Australia. Okay, so myself and another male, and we filmed it. So don't tell anyone that says I'm making this up. There are 8 people involved in this. We looked at photographs of it. It was filmed by myself and another male and another guy that's got that on, that actually works. His name is Sean, and he's a film guy that works for Fox for a while. So it's a professional filmer, and we have it. So when I'm saying this, I can back it up. Okay, so what happens is we come back to Arnie Bev, and we show it to us, and she looked at us, and she said, "Why aren't you dead?" I said, "Oh, thanks, Arnie Bev." We came back with this amazing sight, and Arnie Bev shakes her head and says, "Why aren't you boys dead?" So that caught us a bit by surprise, I must be honest, because we were quite proud and chuffed that we found this, because we knew it was original, okay? Yeah. And I've never ever seen anything like it anywhere. Okay. Anyway, so after a while we found out why she said it. According to Arnie Bev, it's the most sacred women's site in Australia. Now, she's the last full descent Darkinong lady, okay? You know that. All right. That's her call. Now, I'm not going to argue with that if that's what she says, and she was given ceremony in the middle, wasn't she, Evan?
Yeah, she was.
She's been all over. Don't worry about that. That's her call, and she was shocked that we were alive. Now, then the question was, what do we do with this? Because if we show people this, we're going to protect the site, because at that stage, if you remember, that place was for sale for a 300 sort of bed tourist resort.
That's right.
Thing. That was earlier on. That was the first site. And we were going to say we're going to put it up, we were going to go. And what she said was we could show people a film, went up to UNESCO. Then we could show it to them, and we could take 2 people there, basically blindfold them to accept, show them the site, to verify it, and then come back. Now, the problem is now we have an issue. I have to tell you about that, but I can't go more than that, simply because we've figured out where the boundary line's going to be,
Oh,
Now,
dear.
the subdivision they're putting in is a lovely suburban subdivision going straight into beautiful bush, right? Knocking the whole thing down. And what they're going to put in is they're going to leave some bush aside, and they're going to put in 70 residential blocks, which means you've got around about 200 to 300 people there, plus, of course, the parents and of course, their friends and their mates when they visit. And what they can do is, if they wish and want to stretch their legs, they can go for walkies and they go where they want. Now, here's my problem. Let me tell you about the star markers there. I told you about one that's got 800. Do you realise that every those star marks, every one of them is given to Auntie Bev told us, didn't she? Ever?
Yep.
Yeah. What happens to the boys when they become men? What do they get?
They get a star.
Yeah.
But each one of those star markers, was it 300 percussion?
So I think it's more like 800, mate.
800 percussion points.
Percussion points to make a star marker, right? When you are when you become a man, you get one of those because then you have a relationship as on top, so below. Or do we want people scratching around, having a look at them, doing selfies with it, maybe scratching away and putting their markers on top, maybe even putting their name on it, eh? Wouldn't that be funny on that one there, eh? Yeah, put a couple of names on.
It's sandstone, so it'll naturally wear down if too many people are traipsing on it.
Well, they see the lichen on top. That's old. It's been done a long time, man.
Yeah,
It
that's
should
right.
be touched. Should you be walking on top of it?
No.
Eh? That's my point. Or maybe even, what about the women's site, the most important one around? See, here's the deal. That subdivision, they know that's there, and they know that the carry-on glyphs and the area I spoke about that people go to now, it's been matticked, it's been cut, it's been graffitied, it's been stenciled, it's been attacked, and that's as it is now, because also it's unprotected. So
It should
what are
have
we
been a
going
World
to...
Heritage Site, and it should have had.
Or it should,
Yeah.
yeah. But
It should
now
have
they're
had
going to
protection.
put people there. Can you imagine now when they go for walks? Now, most of those people would be okay. Most will be okay, but some won't. And what's that going to do? You're going to destroy the site. So that's our problem. That's our concern. Now, what we've done is the elders asked us, and I've got to go political for a sec, before I want to go back and talk about who did it. Okay? Because we know who did it. And we've got the proof of who they are. We actually have found the aliens who've done it. But can I finish with this? We were approached by the people here. We wrote up a submission, and basically what the submission is: have your subdivision just pull back from these sites about 150 metres and do this. Have a site at the front, make it a place where tourist guides take people on, escort them on, escort them off. Right, number one.
Yep.
And signs up and advertising saying, if you don't go with the guide, you're sacrilegious, you're breaking law, and if you're found, you'll be punished. Number two, full-time guide,
That's
protecting the sites that are there so no one stumbles on to the most important site in Australia for women. No one stumbles onto the glyphs there and decides, oh, look at all those lovely little drawings there that some crazy man did, or something else, or students did, or the hippies did. Why don't I put my mark on top of it?
And people have already done that.
Yeah, I know.
Now, remember, that site, the stuff you're looking at, maybe the stuff that's up now, that was written by the group I'd like to talk about next, which are the Pleiadians. Is that a possibility we could go in that direction, or are we a bit presumptuous?
No.
Any interaction you like, my friend? Anything?
It's your freedom.
It's all open.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
We'd love for you to talk about it.
Well, here's the trick. Can I start talking about the Pleiadians and the fact that we actually have the skulls of a Pleiadian that even the government knows is the case and is desperate and not getting out. And we have so much proof there's not a scientist on this planet can deny it. But before I do that, I think the best way to talk about the Pleiadians is to begin by talking about the Cherokee. How does that sound?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, what do you got Uluru there for? I said Cherokee, man. That's not them.
Get there.
Oh, fair income. We go Uluru soon. The prophecy comes next.
There's the Cherokee.
Okay, right. That is the Cherokee. Right. Here's the deal with the Cherokee. There's a person there, and her name is Dr. Artie 6 Killer Clark, and she's been doing. She's I think it's Montana University. Been doing a lot of work on moon people, right? The star children. And the moon people there, and Evan's got some quotes up there, and what I'm mainly focused on is two things. They live underground, have huge eyes, incredibly intelligent, and very, very benevolent beings. And there's a fascinating quote because Dr. Artie, Six Killer, was doing research with the people and all the myths there. And there's two parts of this story I think are really important. One is there's a quote there about when they left. And in that quote, they said that their people, when these people left them, there was a loneliness like none had ever experienced before because of that contact they had with the moon people. Now, there are clues about the moon people in there, in that they have blue skin, number one, okay? And of course, that's the story with Pleiadians, and they have massive eyes. And talks about these stories, and they're very strongly associated with the American Indian people. Well, here's the trick. For those people, and we've written an article which we haven't even published yet, gentlemen. I'm putting it up in a week, so this is actually before it's come up. And we wrote an article in response to her research, and we're going to send it to her, right? And we're going to explain to her we found that being, because it's in Australia too. And we've been lucky enough to find 4 of them. Now, what I'd like to do, and I don't know if Evan's going to even possibly do this because we're all over the place.
Yay!
But what we're going to do is, first of all, to do that, I'm going to throw the bean in. Okay, so we're going to start to introduce you to the Pleiadian people. Okay, now, I'm a black fella, and I'm going to do it in my special timeline. And what is it with black fella timelines, Evan? How do they work?
Circular.
All right, now, you think I'm going to tell you straight about the skulls we've got that everyone in Australia knows proves that there are Pleiadians? I will, at my leisure. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, get up Uluru now. Okay, see if you can do that.
Or do you want to go back?
That's how time works, right? Old way, man. We've got to tell the story. All right, first of all, now let's get to the hub of what this presentation's about at the same time and explain this is what the whole of this leads up to. And it comes around this. That picture Evans put up is the day after Uluru was given back to original people to look after. It's the first day they got it back, but nobody understands how important it is. We do. And we're going to tell you the prophecy that comes about that's going to take place, because before I need to talk about the Pleiadian people, I need to tell you what they've left for us on December the 21st. Do you see how this is going?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, once you hear that, then I need to explain, I have to prove to you that they exist. So I prefer to do it that way, if you don't mind. And of course, all this stuff we're going to do in more detail on the online presentation. But for now, you focus on that. Now, what happened was on the last day, this happened. When we got the rock back, people went up there and they defecated on it, they urinated on it, they left trash on there to make a statement about the fact they should be able to walk on top of the rock. They have a right to do that, of course, and probably most of those people are now dead, but that's their problem, not ours. It's just, welcome to Australia, gentlemen, and don't tell me you don't believe that, because you know damn well that's what happens here. So we've given that truth. I'm only telling the truth here, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay, next to go. Guess what happened? Heaviest rainfall ever. And look at that picture of what happened. The rock was cleaning itself. Why? Because this is where it gets interesting. For the last 9 years, there's been ceremonies leading up to this ceremony that takes place on that time we've given at 9 p.m. Rain, hail, whatever, it takes place then. And it is of international importance. That's why we need to understand where the Pleiadians are coming from. The prophecy is the only one the original people have ever given until now. Now, what happened was that cleansed the rock. What for? All right, it goes like this. Very simply, I'm not going to give all of this prophecy now because I needed to do it in more detail, and therefore what I'm going to do is you need to understand this started about nearly 3 years ago. Who gave me the first prophecy, Evan? Udakai, Brendan
Murray.
I keep getting that mixed up. Udakai, Brendan Murray rung me. Okay, now you guys, you know about a place called Victoria, don't you?
Heard about it.
Okay, good. All right.
They're in our bad books.
All right,
at the
now
moment.
we've got the geography right. Let's go from there. All right, John Batman came down here, knocked on the door and said, the original people, mind if I come? To begin with, they said, yeah, no worries, bud. Okay, Batman signed a treaty, and what he said was, well, I have half of Victoria, you have the other half. And the original people were being realists. They said, that's a pretty good deal, we'll take it. Okay, so that goes back to Sydney. Sydney looks at it and says, shit, no. Burns the treaty. There's been no treaty in Australia. Okay, the guy that signed that, that's Uticai's great-great-great-grandfather. So I'm telling you someone that comes from some sort of lineage. So you understand when I give you this story, because it sounds unbelievable, okay? But this is the prophecy we've been given. I always cringe when I start saying this because I'm going to be pushing people's boundaries a bit. Anyway, I have to give some...
please.
All right, it goes like this. All right, he rings me up 3 years ago and says, I've got some news for you. I said, oh, what's this, mate? He says, December 20th, 21st, 2020. He said, oh, bullshit, it's a date. I'm not touching dates. We don't do dates, do we?
Oh, dates are hard.
No, not doing it. I said, oh, you've lost me already, but what is it? He said, the whole world changes. I said, oh, what do you mean? That's it. He said, no, that's what's going to happen. I said, well, could you give me a bit more? You know, because it's a nice statement. Heard it before, that one. I'm sure we all have. He says, they're coming. I said, all right, give me the story. So this is what he said. He said that Pleiadians have been here a long time. Okay, we all know that. That's just a given, all right? And they were only in Australia. That was a given. We knew that too, and left. Long time ago. But there was a deal. They come back. Under certain conditions. Now, what's happened is the songs were sung, my understanding 9 years ago, from what I can get from the bits and pieces I've been told, because it's all been a process, guys. It's been bit by bit. The songs have been sung. They're coming, and they will be here at exactly that date. Okay? The Seven Sisters reunited at Artemartha Country last year, was it ever?
Yes.
Yep. They were fully reunited for the first time, prepare for this. This is going on all over the country, right? I can tell you, and Evan will back this up, we spoke to elders, new elders contact us all the time, and we always ask them about this just to make sure they're on side. They know what they're talking about. If they don't know about it, they're not our way. They all know about this, right? So it's not just us. We have to say this because we don't have a frigging choice. So what happens is we all know they're coming at that date. Now, what does that mean? Are they going to save the world? No, they can't do this. There's only one being that can save the planet they're on, are the people who are here. They can't do that at all. They're coming to watch, aren't they, mate? They're popping in.
Yes.
Oh. Now,
I'll have a little look.
Evan, question. Are they hovering or landing on Uluru?
Oh, we're not sure about that one.
No, there's arguments over that. That is the one part of this where there's arguments. So the interesting part is, gentlemen, you've got to understand this. When people keep telling you this story, they don't know the other people, and you get the same story off them. It sort of gives it some validity, doesn't it? It sort of makes you feel like, well, because we're rational. I've been to school, and I think you guys have too. And you know what they do to our head, don't you? And it kills that side, man. You've got to wake it up a bit. So it's difficult, but they kept going. So, okay, what happens when they get here? Well, I'm going to go forward a bit, about 2.5 years, because I'm going to use the new word now that's now being given by the elders who are the keepers of the caves and are doing the ceremony, and they put the word out. They brought with them, what's the word, Evan? 2 words.
Oh, magic box.
A magic box, okay? But it's not a pirate's box, so don't go down and Uluru looking for it because they don't look like a pirate's box. No. I can tell you this, I'm going to go forward again. It's very easy to find because near Uluru, which is a big rock surrounded by other rocks, it is a box in the form of a rock, and within it are crystals, unlike any found on this planet. They come directly from Uluru, from the Pleiades, and are considered the most powerful they have. The deal is this. That is supposed to, if it's charged up, because the elders will give it ceremony, boldly put this out, which has surprised me and shocked me. They've actually put it out publicly. We were never saying this publicly, and we did a presentation in Melbourne, and after the first night, they put it up on Facebook, didn't they?
Yes, they did, yeah.
And on the second night, we changed everything we said. But
So
we're not even going to do that far. We're going back to the day before, man. We're not giving up too much. You guys get the feed up. There's more that's added on. It goes bit by bit because now we're in contact with people directly. Before it was 2 degrees of separation. And what tends to happen with 2 degrees of separation is things get lost on the way and a bit gets added. So what then happens is if there are the right number, the box is there, they can open it. They have what they call the devices to open it. They have the songs to turn it on. And that will do is it'll turn the switch on, but it won't give it power. I know this sounds bizarre what I'm going to say
It's
next,
all right.
but they've said this. What they said is this. In Australia, there have to be a certain number of souls, and this is what's going to get scary from here on, that are not tainted, that are not fearful, that are not worried, that honestly are still true and not fearful of anything, and positive and want to change, and have not given up, and can give and energize this magic box. It's symbiotic. It works in the earth, it works from the earth, and it has to work with us because we're the ones who created the mess, and we can only clean it up. There's one way or one or two ways of doing this. This is the rule. This is the line in the sand. If it doesn't work one way, we know what the other one is, and I don't want to talk about that because I've heard it, and it ain't pretty. Can we stick with the one that's better for now, please? Okay.
So it harmonizes with
No. What
we
it does,
harmonize with it.
No. What it does is it amplifies. Okay.
Right.
What it does is the crystal takes the energy from humans who are prepared to give this and stay faithful, stay true to this, and believe in this, and believe that they've got to stay faithful and they've got to give themselves to the earth. All the stuff we're going to talk about more on there. What happens then is, if they've got that energy, this is what the elders want them to do. That then goes into that whatever the damn thing is. I mean, I can't explain it in detail because, I mean, I'm not Pleiadian and I didn't make the thing. I'm just here as a relay of this story. It then goes into the planet, into Uluru itself, right? Now, what the crystal will do is probably magnify that by 100, right? That's the problem. Right, here's the problem. If we don't get the number, right, of souls that are not scared to death of the coronavirus, of losing their job, losing their superannuation, of losing their house, of the next person that walks near them sneezing on top of them, of a war that's going to take place, maybe a fake UFO invasion, God knows what else they've got lined up for us, a new mutation on the mutation on the mutation. While that's going on, we need a certain number of souls that are basically not affected by any of this. Now, gentlemen, if there was 10, I'm sweet. If it was 100, I'm still pretty comfortable. We could notch up 100. If it's 1,000, I'd think, well, yeah, what do you reckon, 1,000? That's okay-ish.
Yeah.
If it was 10,000, I'm getting a little bit concerned. If I was to tell you the number was over 100, I'm not going to say the right number, but I'm allowed to be on occasions. If I said it was greater than 100,000, I'd be shit scared.
Yeah.
Right, because that means that every day, if you watch this man, from the time that first virus come, you know what they've talked about all the time, even if it was going down? Second wave, second wave, second wave. And they were setting it up, man. They were getting it ready because they had a second one they were making up. And they threw it into Melbourne, but they were getting us ready. Even on the days we were feeling a bit better, they were scaring the shit out of us again. Now, they're doing this for a reason. Because the Illuminati, they all know that the reptilians, the draconians know this is happening, right? Now, the thing is, I couldn't work out why the original people were being so bold. Now I have worked it out. Very simply, can you imagine any government trying to stop blackfellas doing a dance at Uluru? They can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think also they're trying to give people hope, and our job is to get this out. So this is what, and I'll just finish that story for you on the other part, but see, now what we've got is this. Let's say we do get that number. Then we've got an issue because it's not finished. What happens after that number of over 100,000? That turns on the box. What happens next? Well, then I can tell you. And that we are very specific in, and Evan's got a map up. Brilliant. It goes like this. From Uluru, it goes to 5 sites in Australia. We know a couple of them. Stonehenge, Mullumbimby is one. Carry on. We're back there again. Is another one of the 5. That's why we're back to fight for it, and we'll get to that. After that, you've got 3 others. One's down to Kangaroo Island, Carter through West Australia, Wilpena Pound. Other one up to Kakadu, and one out to the Kimberley. When that happens, then across the Rainbow Bridge, isn't it, Evan? Which is a rainbow bridge they all spoke about. I've had different elders speak about that together. That is one that goes, I think,
to New Zealand.
From probably, maybe from both Carry On and Stonehenge together across to New Zealand to make 6. Then all the other ley lines around the planet are energized. Then what happens is, gentlemen, that Schumann resonance has been peaking all around the place as the Earth is rigging itself for that. It's preparing, right? It's preparing itself for this day, right? And what it's doing is that it's getting us ready to this higher vibration. And some people reacting well, some aren't. You get that, don't you? Okay? It's preparing us, and it goes back down to the 7, and it does that. Well, on that day, if we get above that number, then once that ley line is completely set up, then what takes place very simply is that the place stays at 150 forever.
Wow.
The Earth has now ascended from being primary to a high school, a university. All the aliens have been here for so friggin' long because it reverberates all over the cosmos. This is a divining line that's going to go everywhere. That's why they've all been involved in this. That's why the battles have taken place here. Now, the trick with this is, then we've got a division, but you've got to understand that. Do you mean to tell me if that takes place and everything's brilliant all of a sudden that everyone that's here is going to be part of it? No. That's what this is about. This is the final moments for every soul on this planet. This is where it gets even more bizarre, and this is the one that I found hard to understand, but I do now. It goes like this. There are going to be, for a period of time, get used to quantum physics having a bow in it. For a period of time on this planet, there will be two vibrations acting simultaneously at the same time. There will be, for all intents and purposes, two realities. Those two realities, whichever side you're on, you will see that other reality like a vague shadow in the corner of your eye occasionally, and it will go both ways. They will continue living where they are. I don't fully understand it. This is what they're telling me. And you, whichever side you're on, will live where you are. Okay? And that continues. But the problem is that can only continue in that suspension of two onto one place at one time for only a period of time. Otherwise, it'll implode. So what then happens is one gets stronger and the other gets weaker. The lower vibration gets weaker, 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 and finally it dies and goes away. And then the other vibration then keeps that Earth at that higher depth, that higher level. Now, I'm going to close this because I would like to, if I can, in the time we've got, to sort of make the thing about what we're going to try and do with carry on a bit. But, I've got to do the skulls, of course, haven't I? Yeah. So this is the last part of this because we've got to do the skulls. I've got to show you what these people look like. Okay. So what then happens is this. Right, thank you. 21 minutes. I read that out of the corner of my eyes. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Then what happens now is this. Those beings, this is not hell, guys. This is not what some people think. It's nothing like that. What happens is there's a dividing line here where someone does and someone doesn't. Man, what about the person that just missed out by one? Don't you feel a bit pissed off by that? Because what happens is they disappear. Their souls disappear. No, they don't disappear. They incarnate on a Earth just like the one that's vibrating at 7 where we're living in right now. Where they're going to go through all the same shit they're going through here. Where evil is in the ascendancy and they're going to battle their way through. But evil's been in its ascendancy too long on this planet, and that's why there's a rebalance taking place. It's a reset. So what then takes place is the other group, the ones that are on that side, primarily from that point on, they're cool. Now, there's only one last thing I want to share with you, then we're going to do the skulls, that's right, is this. If I can, there would be one question if I was listening to this and think, if it is true, okay, prove to me that there are aliens, which I can do. But secondly, what's the difference? Which is which? Which side do you get on? When I was given that information, personally, by someone directly involved in this, that was the question I asked at the finish. I said, man, what's the percentage? I want to be pragmatic about this. Who's going on which side? Now, I got asked that, and I thought to myself, come on, I know a lot of good people that don't get any of this crap, think I'm an idiot. And I'm sure you probably know a few people like that. I might be wrong. I might everyone might be back. Right. That could be true, but they're still good people, aren't they? Yeah. Right? Do you agree with that? A lot of good people. They know love. They know all that stuff. And I gave them 25% people on the planet. How do you feel about that number?
I hope it's that high.
Yeah.
Please don't.
I'm saying no. The reason being is that the coronavirus has wiped out a lot of people, and I think that the kinds of people that it possibly has wiped out so far could definitely be in that group.
I know, and you were right about hoping it's that high because I made a fool of myself. I'd had an hour-long conversation with this person. It wasn't happy news. We weren't laughing, guys. This is not really good stuff because I'm starting to believe he's true halfway through this. I said 25%, and he just laughed his head off. I said, oh, there's a change in scenery here. This is different. And I said, what, did I go too high? He said, oh, no. That's when you said, I hope it's 25%. I thought, God, you got that right. He said, oh, no. Have another guess. You didn't go too high at all. Okay, I said, all right, okay, 10%. And he laughed again. And I thought, oh, no. And he said, go low. I said, no, man, I'm not playing your game anymore. That's it. I'm not going lower. I can't do this. You're depressing me too much.
Yeah.
You know what he said? He said, the elders talk about this all the time, and their estimate is the ones who are doing the ceremony, they're going to get 2 to 3%. Now you're worried about the number I'm looking for from Australia, aren't you? Okay, 2 to 3%. Okay, that's if we're lucky at the moment. And now I told him straight away, mate, said, I don't believe in this anymore. I said, I don't believe that. You're wrong. So we had an argument. And I need to share the argument with me before I introduce the alien, because this is what we've all got to learn from this, man. This is the point. If you want to be at the finishing line, here's the clues. So I sort of need, this is what I'm supposed to give out. Now, I'm going to do that on a day in more detail, but I've got to give this out even if people don't come to it, okay? And it's this. How do you get there? So here's me fighting for a lot of people, right? Them fighting for bugger all people, agreed? That's about where we're starting this. Now, we did a compromise where I ended up agreeing with them. Okay, this is how it happens. All right, I said 25%. I said, look, I know lots of people, really good people. They give love and stuff like that. When I was cursed by the skull and when I was cursed by the ring, nearly died, they rung me up, asked me if I was going to live. They were worried about me. They think I'm an idiot. I said, they're coming, man. And they said, no, they're not. He said, every person incarnated here has been incarnated here time after time after time. Right? And you guys are the dross at the bottom of the class, and you're still here and you still haven't got it right. It's your last chance. There's 2 lessons here. And you've got to pass them both. We only want 50% on each one. That's all this time, and you come. We don't want 98% like before with the avatars, and that's just 50%. 2 lessons. Number 1, learn to love. And the highest order, very important, because from love you can get magic, lots of stuff. Number 2, learn why you're here. Work out what the lesson is. Why is this evil here? Well, evil is a blessing. Have you worked that out yet? Because it challenges you. What is the purpose of life? Have you been doing that part or not? I said, oh, shit, no. Okay, 10%. 10%. No, 10% of the people left, I said, no, they've got the love, they've got the knowledge, they're cool. I'm sitting on 10, right? And then he says to me, and he sort of smiles at me, and I've been with elders before, when they smile at you, you know what that means? You've lost. You're done for, man. It's all over. When Kano smiles at you when he's making a point, what does that mean, Evan? Oh, God. You don't know what he's talking about. You're gone. Okay. I knew I shivered when that happened. Anyway, he smiled at me and said, okay, this 10%, any of them ever dealt with idiots and fools on this planet? I said, well, they're alive. Yeah, plenty of them, all the time, every day. He said, how do they cope with it? He said, do any of them ever tell you about how horrible these people are and how useless they are and they've disappointed you and stuff like that? I said, oh, God, yeah, a lot of them do. He said, oh, so thoughts don't have armor force, do they? I said, oh, yeah, of course they do. He said, well, what's that force? And I slowed up a bit. I said, well, it's really negative, isn't it? I said, well, do you think the Earth's got enough negativity in it right now? I said, no, it doesn't need anymore. I said, so they've come here, all these incarnations, and here they are spewing out negativity. I said, what use are they to us? We can't use them. We can't use their souls. This is the problem with the number we need, you see. It's not this easy, okay? And I said, oh, God, okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, I'll go down to 5%. This is my last bed. No, I'm not going to go down slowly, guys. I fought all the way through here. And he said, what? Why not 2%? I said, no, 5%. No, man, that's it. He said, right then, here's your problem. He said, you ever run into fools? I said, yeah, same ones, no different. He said, no, but I don't talk about them behind their backs. He said, well, what do you think about? I think they're idiots, man. I said, it's obvious. Everyone thinks that. I mean, they've done stupid stuff. I mean, for God's sake, why do they keep doing it? He said, why are you thinking like that? How do you feel? Probably not that great. Shit, no, here we go. I know where I'm going now. I'm gone. I said, well, not great. He said, yeah, that's because it's a negative thought, isn't it? He said, it doesn't really matter whether you put words to it. It makes no difference. When you create a negative thought, it has an impact. There's a butterfly effect. You understand that, don't you? I sort of said, yeah, right. Do you want to stop, please? Please leave me alone. I've been beaten into a pulp by now. And then I sort of said, well, I said, that really means that I'll be seeing you guys later because I'm off with the other mob. There's no way I'm going to get through this. He said, oh, looks like I'm gone too. And then he gave us all a ray of hope, gentlemen. And I needed one by then because I'd actually been beaten into a pulp trying to keep people on this side. And it's a bit of a worry. He said this, he said, just remember one thing. He said the finishing line is up on the 21st of December at Uluru at 9 p.m. We're only going to measure what you get like there. He said, therefore, so here's the trick with this. And what I learned from this, okay, you've got to wake up to what's coming. You've got to believe in this stuff and you've got to ready yourself for this and you've got to talk people positive all the time. And we're going to try and talk about this in this presentation because we're going to ask people. We've got a way that I want people to actually contact the Lands Council at Carry-On, right? We want them to contact them. And we're going to give them the way to do that. And we're going to ask them to load up the letter that we've written where we're presenting a compromise so we can save that site, right? Because we need it clean for the 21st of December when this is one of the sites that's going to get the rest of the world going. We can't have it all screwed up. So it's got many levels to this. And we're going to be asking people to come to our online conference and ask others to come and get all that information we're going to give up in more detail. Okay? So now here's the situation now. What we've now got is a fork in the road for each person. And what needs to happen now is that you've got to basically, as you come closer to this, you can't really think badly of anyone anymore. Because everyone now, because the energy, the way the energy is, the people who are coming out badly and doing horrible things, they're judging themselves. You see, the beauty of this story is this. I want to close with this and introduce who these people are. That now you get to decide where you go for a long period of time. You can't come back here because if you did and you were born back here at lower vibration, the minute that you came out of your mother's body, the vibration would kill you. It's not a punishment. It's to save you. You are no longer able to incarnate on this planet because it will vibrate at such a high level. So no one's being punished. This is not Dante's Inferno, right? The place might be as nice as this place is at the moment. God, it's a really nice looking place. We just spew all over it, but still it's a nice place to live. You're not going back to that. No one's being punished as stuff. Bill Gates, yeah, he's first one on the boat, but that don't matter. He's still on that boat, okay? So it's not like that. So the important part of this story is that right now, we've got to make sure that when that day comes, right now in Australia, we need some clean souls. So that's what that's about. So if I can now, in the time we've got left, can I now very quickly introduce you, oh man with a special machine, Evan, to who these beings are, the moon beings. And there they are. We have been working with 4 of these throughout Australia, and these are the Pleiadians. So now I want to give you some concrete evidence in the time I've got left, so that when you guys think, oh, why would I bother going to this conference? He's just made all this up. I'm not going to go through a lot of the story of this. We're just going to go through the pictures there, and I'm going to tell you what that's all about. Number 1, I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to look at 2 things. Number 1, the teeth that have been taken out. That is the same type of initiation that takes place at that site before Cook came. It's been going on there for hundreds of thousands of years. This is a being that lives there. But you'll notice the eyes are very, very big. Number 2, the nose is completely different to ours. Number 3, as Evan pushes ahead and again, as I take you through what it looks like, is a better example of it. But can you notice now when it's done properly, that is a better angle of the shape of the skull. Can you notice the massive non-forehead there? Do you notice that your forehead might be slightly different to its by just a slight degree? Can you notice a bit of the nose sticking up at the very top between the eyes? It's starting between the eyes. Do you notice that on the top of that, the eyebrow ridge crests at the point between the eyes when ours has got a depression. What you will notice about this being, if it was walking down the street right now, look at the size of the nose there, mate. You could put an elephant trunk in that. It's bigger than that. If it was walking down the street, you would probably notice that it looks slightly different. Would you not agree? Let's go further as we take you through these beings that, oh my gosh, what happened to the back of that person's head? It's gone a bit different than ours, hasn't it? By the way, I was working on a complete intact. First person to work on this ever. They tried to put me in jail on this one, and 3 times. And you'll notice that as it goes back, is your head, it splays backwards, right? By the way, the width at the back I've measured is that one is the female, isn't it? Yeah, she's only 17 centimeters at the back. And by the way, that would be an interesting birth to give for any woman. I would suggest you ladies, if you have one of these inside your stomach, when you get to the hospital, don't ask, demand cesarean.
Yes, absolutely.
You won't want to go through this. This is not made for Homo sapien birth. And we'll get to that in a sec, don't worry, because I don't look at any Homo sapien you've seen. Next one, please, mate. We'll go through this quickly. We're doing the sped boot. Right? Okay, next one up again. Ladies and gentlemen, we noticed there that after the Australian government looked at this and came back and left the site in lovely repair, the bones were originally, how were they buried originally, Evan?
They were buried respectfully with the arms crossed.
Arms crossed on the chest, knees up on the chest. When they finished, and they told the farmer, there's nothing to see here, this is normal. You'll see the femur bone there. Underneath it, there was a humerus bone that we looked at. We didn't dig, it was there anyway. It was chucked on the side as well. By the way, they were going to put us in jail for desecrating the site. We covered them over. And what we did was we found, mate, that there,
but the measurement is huge.
It's beyond belief, man. Yeah. It's 43 centimetres long with no elbow joint. And the longest to given is 35. Now, here's the clues. Number one, it's 43 there. It's got to be 45, could be 50. The arm is nearly dragging on the ground, but it's no thicker than 1 inch. It is a useless appendage. Now, I've got eyes there that if you're walking around with those eyes in the day, mate, you've got to have sunglasses on because you couldn't walk in the day with that. They're too damn big. So this being that's born, I've skipped that one, Evan. The being that's been born there is primarily got eyes that no one's ever seen before, that are bigger than any other thing. In fact, they're 46% bigger than Homo sapien eyes. Why? And the arms don't work. But here's the point. If you were born in a place where the sunlight was a lot less and darker, maybe underground somewhere, and secondly, if you're born in a place with the gravity of half of what it is here, the arms do work and the eyes are fine. Now, where would I find it? In space, of course, where there is no sunlight and the gravity is less. Do you know where you can't find it? Here. This being is not made for here. And now we've got a picture of 2. The second one that was found there, and very quickly, let me share you something interesting with that. The second one that's alongside there, the bone thickness of the skull, 6 centimetres on the first one. On the second one, 14. Second one, the words there are true. No sutures on this one. None. Now try and give birth to a baby that doesn't have flexible sutures. We've got another cesarean coming up here, gentlemen. By the way, the width of this skull is 16 centimetres, but it has no sutures. I was told about this. We were told about this before, weren't we?
We were, yes.
Everyone's saying, you're going to see a skull here with no sutures anywhere. And guess what? They were right. Now, this is where it gets weird. On the back, there is a knob there, a square knob, 1.5 centimetres all the way around here.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Can't hear you now, guys. Yeah. But they're still presenting. So.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, there you go. Keep going.
Keep going.
4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. 1.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. And I've never seen that before. When we went and got the second actual skull, which we've put together, which we're going to show you very quickly. Then the professor told us what that is. He said that is the trait of Neanderthal. So we now found a Neanderthal buried next to a Pleiadian. They were buried 1 metre apart. Now that changed our history slightly. Moving along, please, Evan, because we're running out of time. Let's just go through quickly. Forget about the fact, oh, by the way, that's the way their teeth are.
Ouch.
Oh my God.
That's how notice how their teeth point outwards and ours point inwards when we pull them out. That's normal for Homo sapiens to have teeth like that, guys. Imagine when you go to the dentist and say, sir, I've got a toothache. Would you pull it out, please? You're going to have this being, you're going to have trouble giving birth. You're going to have trouble going to the dentist. Your arms are useless. Your eyes work only on night time. And someone's trying to tell me they belong here. You know what we found, don't you? We found an alien. Keep going. We'll just keep going until we run out of time. There's the picture of the second one that we got. We were given recently, and you'll see across there, no forward again. Quickly, go through it quickly. And again, another picture again. There's a good picture, ladies and gentlemen. Proves it again. Look how the skull recedes backwards compared to ours. That is not. There it is. It's been rebuilt, stage 1, put back together by the guy that worked in the Australian Museum and reconstructed skulls. And then from there, very quickly, we're going to get to stage 2. It's getting there. There's a Homo sapien that was found. Archaic Homo sapien that was found with this one. Quickly, I want to get to stage 2 because we're running out of time. Forget that. Archaic Homo sapien, yes, 15 centimetres, 15 millimetres thick. Keep going quickly. And that is what you come up with. That's the final reconstruction. I wanted to get to that before we finish. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you that the Pleiadians left us a gift that we're looking at reconstructing, there is the final reconstruction there, and that first picture shows you how that skull is nothing like ours. This thing has different arms to us, it has a different bone to us, has different neck to us. It is absolutely not from here. So that, and there they are, the last picture is a good one to finish it on. There's a Homo sapien on one side, and there's our friend on the other, and there's a shot from the top. By the way, this being has a 1700 cc brain capacity. Ours is 1300 cc. So what do we learn from that? That everything you've been told about your history is a pack of lies. Who would have thought that, eh? Who would have thought that? I know you guys are shocked about what I've just said. I know you were thinking, surely some of it's right. Honestly, guys, so little of it's right, it's not worth worrying about.
Yeah.
No, we're with you, I think.
So on the 21st of December this year, at the December solstice at Uluru, there's a Cosmic Consciousness Gateway Conference. Occurring.
Yeah. We're talking at that. We're also talking at that. But it's been agreed with the conveners the day of the 21st. Right. I will only be there some of the time, and they've also let me go there a day earlier, and I thank them for that, so I can do preparatory work without being distracted with the conference. So they've been very good about that. Evan and I are going to that. We're actually speaking at it, and we are on the first presentation, which is the day before, basically doing the prophecy there about what's about to happen the next day. Now, they didn't do this knowing about the other event. They had no idea that was going on. Okay.
Because normally they hold this conference in January.
Sorry?
Normally they hold their Cosmic Consciousness in January, and what a coincidental date. It's amazing.
Well, it's interesting because the other group had there was no coordination between the two, because I was working solely with the other group first, right?
Yeah.
And they even had a couple of issues with the one they put on before, and had nothing to do with it, okay? So that wasn't part of that. It was quite fascinating that that turned up. And our issue was, gee, how are we going to pay all the money to get there and accommodation and stuff? And these guys ring up and say, well, would you like to talk there? And I'm thinking, that's a no-brainer, really, because we were going there anyway and paying for it. And then we told them, look, man, you've got to give us an extra day, because we've got to do all this preparing stuff, because when I bring when I take stuff into country, I've got to get it smoked and by them, not by me. And we also have some sort of involvement I can't talk about on the actual day. Well, we've got to sort of sort that out privately not at the conference and stuff like
course.
that. That's got to be done on the quiet. So, yeah, we're going there for that. So, the funny part of this is, gentlemen, if it turns out that nothing happens on that day, Evan's going to look like an absolute idiot for his statistic that I keep talking this day.
There's the music. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much, William and Evan Strong, for being with us. Catch you next week for another Inside Out, and stay tuned for Bear and his great show.